Cathy ko ngoli ngurno ngalamanyang naya ngamringa darolanga ye.
What makes language revival and language teaching important to you as mob?
We owe it to our old people to keep our language going. It's us, it's our identity, it's who we are.
It's our connection to country, and it's about not letting it die out. We've got to pass it on to a future generation.
It's handling a very sacred, ancient, old language that is like, you do got to handle that with care.
Definitely, and you know, just here sitting here yarning, I feel a sense of like pain because I am aware of potentially the ears and the souls that are going to hear this.
I cry when I hear our young people and our babies singing and dancing because it's just something that was denied so many years ago, but not that long ago.
Naya Mob, my name is Chloe Quayle. I'm a proud Malum Gumpa Barkindji woman from the far, far west corners of so-called New South Wales. I'm proud to be hosting this Yarns Around the Table, and I'm just honoured to be sitting at the table with these amazing deadly mob who are language speakers and continue to revive language for our babies and for our communities, so I'm honoured to be on this table. On this table we have Uncle Tom BARKAA, who is a proud Murawari language warrior, keeping culture alive through language and artefact making. Creed Gordon is a young Gomeroi man passionate about Gomeroi language and song. Lacey Boney is a Nyampa woman teaching language and dance in her community. Baxter is a Wiradjuri language teacher from Dubbo. And Cathy Waters-Trindall is a proud Gomeroi language teacher from northwest New South Wales. I just wanted to go around the table and ask each of you what makes language revival and language teaching important to you as mob?
The thing that makes language revival important for me is giving our people a focus to understand who we are and where we come from. I think language is an interpretation of what already exists, and it can be a great point or an idea or concept for us to grasp when empowering ourselves for our future.
I guess language revitalisation really is about our identity and where we're from. So it's a continuance. So it isn't just learning to be fluent in language. It's about understanding who you're from, where you're from, who your mob are, where your connections are. It's also around understanding law and cultural connections. So for me, revitalisation of language is the whole package. So it's not just the one. So for me, it's really important that we re-identify and we start to let our younger people and a lot of our older people, because of what's happened with past histories, that they can be proud of who they are.
Why I think language revitalisation is important to me as a young person is joining in on this fight against other languages pushing in on us, we owe it to our old people to keep our language going. It's us, it's our identity, it's who we are, yeah.
It's our connection to country, and it's about not letting it die out, and we've got to pass it on to a future generation.
Yeah, mine's the same as everyone. Connection to country, our identity, and passing on to the younger generation.
No, it's beautiful, all the work you mob are doing, and just seeing the diversity in just in this table, seeing especially you as a young fella, it's really beautiful to see that you're it's so important to you as a young person to be, revitalising your language, and through you doing that, you're healing a lot of our elders and your elders. Do you find it really powerful in your journey as a First Nations man to be speaking your language?
Definitely, I can't say I'm Gamilaroi not be able to speak Kamilaroi, like, you know? It's just, that's what I mean about that identity. Every other language group can say who they are and speak their language, why can't I?
Yeah. No, it's really important. For Anne and Ang, how do you...
I think coming from different, like, we've got different backgrounds or areas too, because we've got connections to other countries. Like, I've also got a connection to Yorta people and also Wiradjuri, and, you know, and it's about connecting to those other places too and finding, you know, the different obstacles or whatever that they've had to go through with language, trying to revive their languages, and to bring it back. Because, like I said, well, a lot of our old elders are passed on, and it's up to us now just to try and carry it on the best we can. Yeah.
And I guess for me, once again, and Tommy's correct, because my sons have also got salt water running through their veins. So it's important that they understand their connection to both the salt water and the fresh water, and how that interacts, and how the stories and the song lines are very similar, same but different, as my son would say. But it's important that we acknowledge every part of who we are, and that's who we are and where we come from. So that revitalisation and understanding of language is a lot more complex than people would like to think it really is, for me anyway.
I think us as Indigenous people have a responsibility to educate and lead, and from what I've been taught, we lead with love. And just because I make somebody a bit more powerful doesn't mean that I'm less powerful.
Because language is power.
It brought up a funny feeling, because it's like we have this issue between, do we teach non-Indigenous mob and First Nations mob, but what about our mob who won't teach language? It's a hard one. I think, you know, the politics within, like, which is, you know, it's another attribute to colonisation, to why we, you know, certain families will, you know, about ownership of things rather than, you know, that you can see the effects that has had on mob. If, just like a question for, I guess I'm saying it to myself kind of, I guess, that like we're all entitled to learn our language, we're all entitled to learn, you know, our mother tongue. I think, you know, as language speakers and wanting to revitalise language should never be gatekept within mob, and should always be shared, because that's the reason why, I guess, you know, certain mobs will hold on to language but then not pass it on to other mob, which then leads to our languages no longer being able to be taught and passed down. Do you find that politics in your practice?
It's a can of worms, that's just that. Yes. Short answer?
That's some truth telling, right? It's just...
Short answer, yes.
It's that respect word. Myself, like my journey, I had to get respect and I had to earn to learn my language. That R word, respect.
That's a good point, Grady.
And I guess it's an inherent right, it's a birthright for everyone to know who they are, and to be able to know their language and to engage with it. And we know that it's been, it was taken away, or one of the old aunties said it's sleeping. And so, you know, but it's always been there. You only have to listen to the animals. When the animals are calling, you can hear the language. You know, the kookaburra, it's there. Always been there since the beginning of time. But the whole politics around it is that, you know, when I was young as a bit of a rebel, probably still a bit of a rebel, but anyway, I was very clear and defiant and said, well, no, it's our language and we're going to learn it first. Whereas now it's changed. But I think if we sit back for too long and we let people who think that they know overrule that, we're never going to get anywhere. So you do it respectfully, and if you, as a young person or an older person who hasn't been in that process of learning language or engaging in it, take every opportunity. And if you have people that say no, well, question why. Go to someone else and get a conversation going around lots of different communities. One thing that I really think needs to happen a lot more within engagement within communities, transparency. because we have our key stakeholders within our communities, but we forget about the uncles and the aunties and the young and the youth. I'm always saying that the youth have a voice that's never heard, so we need to engage with those people and go for it. Go for it. You've got nothing to lose.
No, it's interesting hearing like all perspectives, like, because it is like you know, opens my mind to thinking like, you know, I used to like, it's like we do have a lot of, you know, there is it's handling a very sacred, ancient, old language that is like one of the, well, we, you know, those dialects where we have the oldest dialects in the world, and you know, to be able to, you do got to handle that with care. Hey, like and that's opened up, like, this is bigger than us. Like we're speaking languages that our lands haven't heard for a little bit, which is really powerful. But then you got to, like, you know, I think as a, you know, that opened my eyes as a, I got to go about it right way, and you got to tread carefully, eh? Even in your own lands.
100%, sis. Like, our language is different to this white fella language. They just learn it. They don't learn the traits of it. They don't learn, like, the respect behind it. Like, it's not the same language, you know. Like, our language is one of the oldest languages in the world, you know. It's not some 500-year-old language or 100-year-old language, you know.
Yeah, very ancient.
And for me, language has place as English doesn't really have a place. For me, language is about place and connection to country, and understanding, you know, understanding country or being literate and numerate of country is understanding story, understanding seasons, and understanding the words that actually go with that, and when to know the time and place to use those words in country and in language, because you can use it out of context and it has a whole different meaning and a whole different word, even if it's the same word, like on country. So it's important, exactly, you know, what Creed said. He said it's about respecting the language, but also respecting yourself and the culture that you're in.
Because our language, like, our words have meanings within meanings. Like, you can't just use a word for like that, because it has a meaning within meaning. You might be doing something dangerous, like, you know, tread lightly, as you said.
100%, and the most important thing is respect. I think us as a First Nations people, and many First Nations, and even humans, we value respect highly. And I think treading lightly, you know, if we say yinjinamata, respect and treading lightly go hand in hand.
That's a big journey.
Yeah, and we've got to remember too that, like, our old parents and grandparents, they were denied the opportunity to speak it back in them days, you know. And as with my grandfather, who could speak fluently in Murawari, never spoke it for 40 years and never even told his own children that he could speak it. And so when my father found out that his father could speak fluently, he was broken-hearted, you know. And so these are the stories, and then so that was why it's important that, you know, that we've got to try and carry it on the best we can today. And yeah, just coming from them old people for that respect. Yeah, I think it's very important.
We're healing like a lot of our old people. Like, it's crazy to think like that denial of language was not long ago. You know, my mum, like, even my mother, she's a part of my mother's stolen generation, and we talk about like how she was speaking language when, you know, but Nan and Pop would speak language, and it was like, you know, at home, but because of the assimilation process, you know, where you're like, you pretty much, if you want to conform to society, you gotta, if you want to live on those missions, you speak English, you believe in Christ, and you conform and you assimilate. You know, as First Nations people, like, just like the, you know, just blackfellas getting crumbs, and I think, yeah, like, it's up to us. It's you know, like, it's a shame that it's like, but it's, once we regain that language, you know, push for these schools to like be part of the curriculum. I want to see that where if you're on Darug land, you learn Darug language, or you got schools in on Wiradjuri country, you learn Wiradjuri, Gomeroi schools, and we're seeing that because of yous, and think like through this it's healing me. Being able to sit with such powerful people who are doing amazing things for our people, and just seeing like being able to go out on country. And how do you feel when you see our babies embracing culture?
Oh, it's empowering, and especially from that young age, get them started, and song is a good way, music, and I think that's very important from that young age.
Definitely, and just here sitting here yarning, I feel a sense of like pain, because I am aware of potentially the ears and the souls that are going to hear this. So part of me does want to just empathise with them, give them some time in this moment, and just say, you aren't not thought of. And it's actually quite the opposite. That pain is the pain that I'm leaning towards for us.
And I know that in some areas we do have what you spoke about before about the gatekeepers and stuff, and not trying to share and that. But I think is one of the important things we've got to remember. We've got to try and share. And if there are gatekeepers there, and and you're working in difficult or challenging communities, you get yourself around the people that want to go and do it, or the last elders that are in those communities, and try and work with them, and that respect you got to show and that, and then work with them, and then go forward in that way too. And that's your only chance, because otherwise, a lot of our communities are still trying to bring that language out, and it's not easy. Language is very hard, so you got to try and work together and share.
And I just love, I cry when I hear our young people and our babies singing and dancing, because it's just something that was denied so many years ago, but not that long ago. But yet when you see their pride in how staunch they are when they're talking and doing acknowledgements and dancing and kicking up dust, it's something that just resonates so strongly with me that I cry. But I cry because it's happiness, not because it's sad. But it's those little people, but how do we then take them from being so strong when they're little, and then go through that journey as they grow, where there's often that racist connotations which go along with it. But we have to build the capacity in them to know who they are, where they're from. Once again, relating back to that very first question about resilience and about knowing who they are and connecting them with mob. And if there is a disconnect, being the conduit to say that we can help you and we can bring you to where it is. But also spending a lot more time with our preschoolers and when our babies. When my son's partner, he's got 4 children, and when they were in utero, he sang in lingo to them, so that when they came out, the only way that they would settle was when Dad was singing in lingo to them. And it's just so beautiful. So now, they know, they're only little, but they know language, they know words and dance and culture. We've got to start right from there and bring in the community and our elders with us along that journey. But it's amazing. I just beam with pride when I see the kids doing what they've got to do, and the youth. The youth are our future elders, sitting right here with us, so.
Well, that's a big thing to say, but I feel powerful when I'm singing or dancing with my cousins, my friends, my Indigenous brothers and sisters, and we see the look on our elderly, our mothers, our grandmothers, faces when they see us dancing and singing in our lingo. It's a different feeling from if you're doing just a normal song, from English, and you don't get that same sort of pride, and you feel the old fellas with you,
And example is my daughter started singing from a young age in Gomeroi, and when her old great grandfather heard her singing, a tear rolled down his face, because he never thought he'd ever hear his language again, you know. So there's stories like that, you know. So
Definitely,
Yeah.
there's there's an essence that comes with song and dance. Most definitely.
And that's not only with song and dance, you know, like could be going out bush, you know, like doing artifacts as you do, Tommy, looking at plants, nature, you know, talking lingo, what it is,
That's
you know?
it. That's the connection.
Yeah, connection to country, not only just song and dance.
Sometimes just sitting real still on country. I think when we just hear the quiet, where you kind of hear your old people like through the wind and that. It was, what's your favourite word in your language to say? What sounds? Is it a swear word?
What a good question. Deadly question. Oh, I don't know. I've got a few, but yeah, let me think on that one.
Mine is Peru, strong.
Yeah.
Mine is Yinjaramata and Yambiambinya. Yinjaramata is tread lightly, respect, and Yambiambinya is the guide.
I guess mine's probably Winangai. To know, to learn, to love, to listen.
I know mine's just an animal, like the mullian. The eagle, like when I was on my mother's country, Walgett, just sitting there at my nan's house, seeing the mullians flying over, you know, it's just reminds me of home when I hear that word. Yeah.
Mine's Yarama, good everything. And I'm learning new one that I love is Tirapana is learning. So I'm really liking that, it's resonating with me. Yeah.
Mine's Nyampa Kukriaka, which means beautiful black woman.
Ah, deadly.
Nice.
That's you all over.
I like saying it to my mum and my daughter. It's been a nice little, walk around.
And sis, let me ask you a question. Do you feel like different saying it in language, saying it like normal, you know? It's a different feeling, that.
Yeah, it's strong. And it sounds like it feels it feels good.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like beautiful. Yeah, like but Nyampai, it's like, you know, like gorgeous, like your ethereal, your ancestral, like it's that, you know, words just sound deadlier in lingo. And I think it's beautiful that, like, you know, even just talking about like, even though we're different tribes, different clans, but we're relearning our language, we get to connect, like all of us get to connect through this process. And I get like, it's just beautiful, like that Meet and Mob were like we haven't lost our, like you said, Aunt, like it's sleep, but we're just waking it up. And love being a black fella, eh?
How do you think we help people that are very disempowered become more empowered?
It's a hard one, because drugs and alcohol substances will find our mob. Like, when you know, like I found myself, like I think, and we'd all go through stages like that as blackfellas, where we find ourselves in really disempowered stages where we feed into the poisons that we use to kill us, you know, and or we feel like a lot of culture will save us, you know. Culture was a big thing for me to get clean, to, you know, put that poison to the side and be like, you know, my people didn't fight for me to throw my life away to substances. And I think with our disempowered mob, it's a lot of that poison that's clouding our mob's mind, you know, like, you know, that's not healing. That's, you know, we need mob to see how beautiful culture is. And it's a hard one because growing up, like, you know, you're not ever taught nice, empowering things at school about being a black fella. It's always like, oh, we were nomadic people who had no homes, had no structures, you know, and it's, that's a hard one, eh? Like, how do we breathe empowerment into mob that...
And this is what I was thinking when Cass said something about becoming more in touch with our preschoolers, and our education system, I find, is what's indoctrinating our people rather than empowering them. because empowerment and education aren't the same thing. Empowerment is how do I teach me to deal with me, rather than teaching me how to count to 10. So I think that's the difference between educating someone and empowering someone.
And back to your question, bro, you said how do we empower the disempowered, you know, like, I think country, you know, like I know when I was feeling disempowered, when I went back to like my country, you know, and I went out bush, like surrounded by like people who were like empowered, you know, I felt empowered, you know, like that's the sort of thing, like that's not the only solution, there's other things as well, but that's the solution I found.
Around making sure those connections and opportunities are there for the people who are feeling disempowered, and why they are feeling disempowered, you know. I know that the education system's got a lot to answer for, and I guess, you know, there's that whole debate around whether, because we do have language syllabuses right across that are mandated. If your school's teaching Wiradjuri per se, there's a mandated curriculum that they have to use. Then again, that gets into that whole conversation around who teaches it, how's it being taught, and when you talk about who's teaching it, qualifications, in terms of do we follow the Western way of education? You know, I'm a qualified teacher, so therefore am I going to get more than Aunt over here who's got a degree and a doctorate just because of her living skills and her life skills? No, she's not. So it's also around acknowledging what we've got in our communities as well. So empowering our people and giving them the opportunities to find their way of, I was going to say the voice, but will find their own way of bringing, you know, that out in them. And you are correct, on country heals so many people. But we have to give that opportunity to get them back on country. And we need spaces that we can call our own, that we can go out on country without the gatekeepers and the locked gates, so that we can take them out and take the youth, take the babies out, take the disempowered people out.
And for instance, like me and Tommy, we went out to a cultural camp for like boys' business, you know, like men's business, and we was on a property that was owned by a white fella, you know, like that's not country, you know, like he owns that, you know, like why don't we own it? Like why, like, you know, it's not the same. We need our own spaces, as you said.
I see that as a massive difference, you know, hearing about your grannies and how strong they feel in culture, you know. I think it wasn't like, I had a really bad identity issue when I was growing up. Like I didn't want to, which sucks. But that, like, you know, but now I look back and think, oh, I love being a black fella, but I didn't want to be black when I was little.
Used to be sort of shamed out a bit when I was when I was in high school in Newcastle. I was only Aboriginal student in the class out of 25, 30 kids, and I'd sit up the back on my own, you know, and I was ashamed, you know, and wouldn't put your hand up for help or nothing like that there, so you felt ashamed. And I remember my dad used to talk about the days when they were living on, you know, the mission, and then when he came back from the war, they felt they had an this was his words, an inferiority complex, you know, and it was a terrible thing to be an Aboriginal, and things like that. Other people wanted to be a different race, whether it be an Indian or Maori, Maori or whatever, you know, that's how it was back in them days. You weren't, you know, it was a terrible thing to be an Aboriginal. And so these were the things that, you know, that you had to put up with. And it was been passed on to us. And, you know, the generational trauma with our language and culture.
I think too, we tend to highlight how we're different a lot, rather than highlighting how we're the same. Also focusing a lot on the negative rather than the positive. Like, how have we got here? And how do we move forward together?
What about you? What do you think?
The last couple of years and every job that I've had, I tried to do a little bit of cultural stuff, you know. I did cultural studies where I learnt about so grandfather taught about that stuff in the classroom with the kids, and they loved it. And the teachers give me like an hour out of the week So one day a week I had an hour with the kids to try and push all this stuff in. The teacher that I had was really, really good. She started implementing maths, English, you know. In English they didn't want to learn about Banjo Patterson, you know. So I was like, no, come on sis, let's do all this other stuff now. So I moved on to family support in early childhood and did dancing with the little ones. Always bringing people in to do stuff with the kids. I've always done that sort of stuff. And I've always worked in education. And that's a part of me, like in my community, you know. So now that I'm on this new journey with language and being independent and bringing everything, like everything that I've learned over the couple of years is now just rolling out and hopefully start to empower other ones. I want to do it not by our limitations of our companies or, you know, education system or whatever we work for, and in our own life too. Because now my kids are, oh, Mum, that's neat what you're doing. Can I do that? You know, they never said that to me, never. Mum and Dad, like they're old now and they don't leave the house much, so they don't really know much of what I do. But they're starting to really see and like, this is the platform. So it's stronger than what it was when I was in my 20s, you know, 20 years ago.
I guess I've been raised by strong women. And my communities, I've always been around strong, independent women who fought for injustices. So I've been raised around basically human rights, such as, yeah, we will speak our language and you won't tell us. We're not going to. And knowing the cultural protocols and the cultural ways is just been never taught. It's just been a part of who I am and the way that it's always been. And our community is strong, is full of strong women who have a lot of cultural knowledge.
Well, my point of view as a young person, seeing our culture progress, you know, it's like, for me to come to it now, it's strong, like, and that's from like you older fellas putting in them stencils, like, to keep it strong, reviving it, you know, and like I feel like it's my obligation help build it, you know, like yous have already put the forefront, yous have been at the front of the battle, you know, and I'm there in the back line and I've got to get in the front line with you, so yeah.
100% you do, and you're already up here with us, right. Future's in beautiful hands.
Yeah, great job talking.
I wasn't doing what you're doing, but at your age.
No, that's right, me either.
And that's what I mean, there's plenty of other young people like myself, and I'm just lucky that I have the opportunity to sit here and talk at this table about languages. There's a bunch of other language warriors, especially young ladies that are strong in their culture, like you, BARKAA, for instance, that I think should be at this table as well.
Yeah.
And when I've seen Creed get painted up and get up in front of the whole school and dance and sing, it just makes me that proud, you know. I was thinking, you know, wow.
You can rest.
Before you to get up and do that.
It does something to you.
Yeah,
It's a different type of...
and I wish I could go and do that. You know?
That's what I mean, like I thought I couldn't do that, but when you put the paint on, when you're surrounded by like the other warriors, you know, like it's a different feeling, you know, and you know them old fellas are with you, so you can do it, you know.
75,000+ culture like that we've been practicing, like that can't go away. That's there, so we can tap into that. And I just seen like when our uncle were just like, I just want to just really highlight that moment you two just had when, because it was just beautiful to be in between that, where Uncle was saying when he watched you paint up, how proud it made you, like, you know, and that's what it's all about, eh? Like from you doing what you're doing, you're healing Unc, and Unc, you're healing yours.
And that's the thing, like you feel pride in practicing and doing your own culture. Like I know, for instance, there was this white fellow was talking about Aboriginal culture and stuff, and I noticed my peers, they looked at me, and I was just thinking, like, they just looked at me to see if I knew, and I was confused and I was angry because, like, I should know this, you know, like, it's my, like, birthright, like, I'm an Indigenous man, you know, like, I should know this knowledge, like, but he was telling it, you know.
Where do you see our languages with what we're doing as people? What is your ideal, like, ideally, what does it look like for us in, say, 10 years?
Well, I hope there's more people involved, you know, because I see a lot of, like, people doing it on their own, you know, and it would be good to see more people helping out, and that way we can build it together, you know, like, rebuild what's already been built, you know.
I agree. I think co-operatives are important for us to come together and share. Language and culture is only alive when it's shared. So the more opportunity we can give ourselves to share, the better.
Community get-togethers, you know, and teach people language, and, you know, welcome people there to want to come and learn, and on country also.
For me, 10 years, I want to be able to be in a space in my community where our youth are learning Yuralarai, Mawari. They can, you know, lingo around, like, and just go to Rich's uncle there, you know, and just talk to him, and go and meet Auntie Phyllis in Garuga and talk to her, and that's what I want, you know, like that type of
conversations.
Yeah. Me with them. Yeah. I want to be in that space. That's why I want that for.
And that's exactly what I want. I wanted us to be sitting around the table yarning in lingo. And people saying, now what they said there?
Yeah, and looking back at this and laughing.
You know, yeah, and
laughing at it.
And just thinking, you know, that our babies in 10 years, we can do it. The whole generation that's coming up. You know, get into our mums and our dads while they're young, and our preschools, and build the foundation that's already there. So that, you know, the first languages we'll be hearing will be our own languages in our own communities, and we'll be understanding each other and yarning across the road, and, you know, and know exactly what everyone else is saying. So that's my dream. And in the future, like long time before my, you know, when I've left this world, that, you know, our languages will be our first languages again. That's simple. And we have to do it, and this is a starting point. And we have to acknowledge the strength of our old people and the tenacity of our old people who were able to ensure that our languages were still there, and that our traditions and our cultures and our stories have been passed down. So now we have to break down a lot of the shame that's out there as well with a lot of our mob, and also cultural safety and sensitivity around our elders in our communities who are still living, you know, from that era where they were told not to talk it, not to speak it, and give them the strength and the feel and the strength and the safety to be able to start to speak it again. But in the future, let us sit at this table again, you know, in 20 years and just talk lingo. That's, you know, that'd be my dream. I'd be really old by then, but anyway. It's all good. It's a privilege to grow old, because a lot of our people don't live to be elders and to share their stories. So it's a privilege to grow old.
Like, I see, like, so much beauty and strength in our, like, just seeing, like you said, Aunt, like, we don't get to grow old, but, you know, I've always seen black women age mad, like deadly. Always, you know, even though, like, they just, I feel like black fellas age and they get funnier or sillier. I don't know, like, my mum will call me silly, but I mean, like, it's. I think that's like what being a black fella, right? Like, I think that's a big thing for me. Like, having been a black fella, like you said before, bros, like it's not just about ourselves, like we're not so different. And I think that's like, seeing black fellas like being around mob has always taught me that nothing's impossible. Nothing's ever impossible. And that's been the main thing that mob have taught me, is that, you know, we might have to work a little harder, but we get it done. And I feel like we're gonna get it done. And I mean, we learn our languages and we get to learn each other's languages, and then we're gonna have a bunch of bilingual black children. And that's exciting. I can't wait to see, you know, the work that, you know, we continue to do as mob, internally, externally. I'm just, yeah, super inspired, so inspired. Being Sydney with you all today, yeah, it just makes me feel, yeah, we're not alone in this, eh? Like, I can always reach out to you and be like, how's this going? Or, you know, if I struggle with something, I now, like, that's like, we're connecting through, like, that's kind of like language is connecting us, like song lines, you know, and we're connecting again through language. And I think that's, yeah, pretty powerful stuff. And yeah, I'm just honoured. I'm really honoured. And
We are too. Yeah.
hey, being your deadly black selves.
And thank you too.
Yeah.
Don't hurt nobody. With your deadliness. Us, us. I would love for us to all say goodbye in our language if we.
Yellow.
Guayo.
Hello, Yanaya.
Rami kuma.
No, yellow too.
We.
I don't know goodbye in Niampa. So I say yellow, and when I heard that, I say whatever resonates with me.
I can say Birra Durringa, which means good day.
Like, we don't have goodbye, it's see you later, is what I
That's,
learned.
that's
Like,
what yellow is.
Yellow
See you
is
later.
see Yellow Yanaya. See, I'm going now.
But now, like,
That's what Yellow Yanaya means.
thank you so much for watching Language Yarns Around the Table. I hope you have gotten a lot of insight from this as much as I have. It's been an honour to sit here and yarn with these deadly mob. And yeah, remember to speak your languages. Remember to, yeah, dive into your language and to speak it, whether you know a little bit, your ancestors always hear you. So yeah, stay deadly, stay black, and let's revive it together.